Mighty Gunvolt, released in 2015 for PCs via Steam, and it's also on the 3DS, so go figure. Mighty Gunvolt is a 2D shooter that... what's that? Oh, I got the name... It's Mighty Gunvolt. What the fuck is a Gunvolt? Gunvolt is the main protagonist of Inti Creates produced action game called Azure Striker Gunvolt, a game I've never played before. Okay, got it, thanks. Originally a free bonus download for people who bought that other Gunvolt game before eventually being sold for a couple bucks on its own, Mighty Gunvolt is basically a megafied 8-bit version of that game that plays very much like that one game there. Running, jumping, shooting, cutesy characters and stuff. Fuck. Well, not so much that last part, but you know. Speaking of that one game there, Mighty Gunvolt gives you 3 playable characters with different abilities. The aforementioned Gunvolt from that game I've never played, Ekiro from Galgun, another game that I've never played, and finally Beck from that game that I've never played that's, well, it's better than nothing, I suppose. Each character plays similarly to each other in regards to the basics, but have unique bits that distinguishes them and gives the game some replay value. Gunvolt can perform a double jump and use a chargeable lightning attack. Ekiro can float in midair and convert certain enemies to her sides with her arrows. And Beck can dash through narrow passages to access certain areas and charge through opponents. He could even dash in the air if he wanted to. I wonder if the dash that makes breakfast is included here. Nobody is going to get that. For the most part, this is a fairly basic side-scroller. You run around, you shoot at enemies, you use your skills to access bits of level usually cut off from the rest of the characters, collect fruit to increase your score, and eventually defeat the end boss to move on to the next level. Now, it's not quite your world mega fight or whatever the tagline used to be. There's no stage select save for the option of revisiting previously cleared levels or sampling the bonus levels supplied as downloadable content once upon a time. You don't get any cool weapons for beating the bosses or anything like that. Basically, all the cool stuff you'd like to have done, much like that one game there, is included in the game's pseudo-sequel, Mighty Gunvolt Burst. Naturally, a far better game due to it being a more complete game intended to be sold as a complete game rather than designed as a little lark giveaway thing that was later sold for really dirt cheap. Mighty Gunvolt only has 5 main levels, plus 4 bonus levels, adding up to 9 levels in all. The levels themselves are straightforward affairs that go by rather quickly, with the boss fights offering the game's only real challenge until you figure out their patterns. And while the levels might have segments tailored for specific characters and their specific skills, these don't go beyond something being out of reach or requiring a slide to go through a narrow path or anything like that. In all honesty, the extra abilities of the 3 characters, while enough to be distinguishing features to merit replaying as these characters, don't get highlighted enough here, and you could easily play through the game without using these all that often. Still, for something that was tossed together as a lark, Mighty Gunvolt is a perfectly functional platformer. It doesn't quite replicate the feel of that one game there. That one game there, after all, had shots that passed through solid objects, the controls were a little tighter, and the levels were more inspired, shall we say. But it does an adequate job of faking it if nothing else. And honestly, control here is fairly tight and responsive on its own. The jumps feel a tad bit lightweight, but for the most part, it's alright. And the sidebars will tell you how to perform the various actions of your chosen character, so you're not totally in the dark in that regard. So yes, before anyone asks, Beck the Mighty Number 9 guy, it was reimagined to look like that one guy there. And it's better than nothing, that's all I'll say about that. Other than that, it's another platformer with Nes Style Pixel Art that has more colors and special effects than what the old family computer would have been capable of, and it matches the style of, well, you know. And it looks fine, I guess, I suppose. Maybe it's because I've seen so many of these NES-style retro remakes or whatever they're called that the appeal has long worn off on me at this point, but Mighty Gunvolt is above average looking, fair at best. They nailed the style of what they were mimicking, but even in that regard, it's not quite as memorable or noteworthy looking as the games that serve as inspiration. Maybe it's the levels that are just bland looking, or the characters really don't lend themselves to this style of graphical design, I guess. I don't know, maybe it got better with Burst. I might have to revisit that one of these days, but for here, it's just... they tried, but I don't know, didn't work for me. Might work for you, but not for me. Sorry. I'll say one good thing though. You got a pretty banging soundtrack of 8-bit tunes, mostly remixed versions, I'd imagine, of the main Gunvolt's game soundtrack. And they're pretty good tunes that fit the vibe of the levels you travel in. Sound effects are kind of lame imitations of, so-and-so, but the music's top-notch at least, so it's got that going for it. Now I'm kind of curious about this other Gunvolt game that I've never played and actually got on a sale, so looking forward to that one. Overall, Mighty Gunvolt is a cheap yet well-made little platform game that serves as an 8-bit sampler for the Azure Striker Gunvolt game that it's largely based upon. And that's all it really is, a short, cheap little game that is the very definition of you get what you pay for. And for a cheapo platformer, this ain't half bad, and is probably worth a shot if you come across it on sale for dirt cheap. But otherwise, you're not missing out on much by skipping this. Had fun with it, plays fine, has some good tracks, but doesn't last more than the half hour it takes to beat this thing. But I suppose without this Mighty Gunvolt game, we would have never gotten Mighty Gunvolt Burst, and that has to count for something, I suppose. Yeah, that's all I got. Bye.